In a man. No worries. I won't ask questions that has already been answered via past AMAs or articles. Right on. Hello,
Right.
Derek. Check one, two. Hello, hello.
Hey,
Uh,
hey, good to meet you.
you as well. Sorry, I just want to check. Can you hear me fine?
Hang on, let me fix my. Okay, hello, can you hear that?
Hello? Yep. Can you hear me? I just want to check. I don't know if there's a little bit
Oh,
of a delay or
I was
not.
going to hear you.
I'll keep talking just in case he can or can't hear me. Double Helix. Yeah, I'd like to know how they will be stopping whales from just buying all the
Oh,
guilds
honey, let
available.
me check my settings.
Okay, sounds good. No worries. Yeah, the camera works. let me just shoot him a message real quick.
Message. Oh,
Uh,
there you go.
oh,
Right,
hello.
so,
Check, check.
yeah, we're good.
Awesome. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Guys, this is Derek. So, Derek, I've been reading about this Guild of Guardians game. I love the name because I played like Guild Wars 2, and all that kind of stuff. We're looking at the mobile realm with everything. Can you give us a little bit of a lowdown on what Guild of Guardians is?
Yeah, sure. So Guild of Guardians is a mobile RPG. So it's a game where you have a team of heroes and you're battling through dungeons, collecting loot, leveling up your characters, getting equipment, and so on. And our goal for the game was we want to create a really compelling and fun game played by millions of players where everyone can turn their passion for gaming into these NFTs.
And I love it. And we also saw that you guys were also pairing with Immutable. So in terms of kind of creating these NFTs and whatnot, we also saw the Guild of Guardians token. So is that going to be kind of the currency that we're able to use as NFTs to go elsewhere? Is this something that we need to be paying more attention to with the collaboration with Immutable? But for people that are looking at this, how does that kind of break down?
Yeah, so there's two separate parts there. I guess the first is around the token. So the plan is that the in-game currency of Guild of Guardians will also be a tradable token, which allows us to do these really cool things within the game and rewarding players, but also really cool things outside of the game as well. And we can talk more about that if you want. The second part is around Immutable. So the way it works is that Guild of Guardians is fully owned and published by Immutable, which I also work for. So we've built God's Own Chain and Immutable X, and then the game is being developed by our development partners, Stepico Games, who are a mobile game studio.
I love that. It's really, really cool. And you guys are also kind of positioning yourself as kind of like the front runners. You guys are saying, hey, we think that we're going to be the next big thing. We're wanting to really bring NFTs and the gaming feature to life on mobile. Is there a reason why you guys chose mobile, or is it just mainly because there's a lot of untapped potential there financially?
Yeah, there are a few reasons. So when we first started getting into this, we looked at like pretty much every single genre and type of game and platform to look at what would be a good fit for blockchain. And so mobile RPGs in particular is one where we thought there was a really good fit. So um, for example, so mobile by itself is a very big category. It's twice as big as PC console, growing very quickly. Mobile RPGs itself is very popular. I think I noticed you guys chatting before about who actually plays, um, but it is a very popular genre across many different countries. And we think we really like the RPG elements of it as well. So the ability that you're able to work with other team members, collect materials, craft level, etc. I think those lend itself very well to creating a real economy with the game.
I love that. And regarding the people that are playing it, do you guys have like a specific demographic that you're trying to target with the game?
Yeah, primary demographic is going to be in what we're aiming for, but the game will be available for everyone.
Okay, sorry, you cut out just there for a second. What was the age?
Oh, sorry. So the primary demographics is North America and Europe,
Okay.
is what I was saying. And but the game will be available to everyone.
Okay, awesome. That's really, really cool. Okay, sweet. And then for the gameplay itself, so we know that the founder sale is coming up, and one thing that I've noticed when we were looking at it was that the early guild sales, where it was a 20-person guild, and then 1% of it was, I think, around like 300 or so dollars, and then it kind of jumped up quite heavily to about like $4,000. What was the reasoning for such kind of like a heavy price jump between the first two initial levels?
Yeah, so there's a few reasons here. So the first is around scarcity. So obviously, as the guilds get up in terms of tiering, that they become more scarce. So naturally, we wanted to make less people be able to get them. Um, the second interesting part of this is like really the price of these guilds is going to be what people are willing to pay for it. And so it'll be interesting to see, how they go once they're tradable and whether or not those do get traded. Um, and then in terms of the difference between the guilds, so that really the difference comes in terms of two forms. So one is the number of members, and the second is in terms of the percentage cut that a guild leader gets from guild crafting before proceeds are distributed to everyone in the guild. And we can talk about that as well if you want.
Yeah, for sure. Because that was something that I thought was really, really cool. Of like, hey, if you own this guild, then you're also going to be getting something from everyone in that. But also on a similar question, as we're talking about this, I was kind of unsure because it seems like the guilds are so limited in terms of the availability right now. Are you guys planning on selling more guilds down the line? Because if you guys are going to be going to hundreds of thousands to millions of users, having only like less than 2,500 guilds, it seems kind of small.
Yeah, we are. So in short, we don't plan to sell any of the founder guilds again. But we have identified like quite quickly that once the game gets big, then we'll need more guilds, and we want everyone to be playing in a guild. That's a core part of the game. So we have flagged that there's a potential for us to either sell or give away more of the lowest tier guild or a different version of that. Which we haven't really decided the details of, but yes, in short, it is possible.
Okay, awesome. And then for the guild and the mechanics and the crafting and everything, can you talk a little bit about what we can expect for that?
Yeah, so one of the key principles of the game is that we want players to be working with each other and engaging with each other. So it doesn't really make sense for us to have a game where you can get everything by yourself, because then there's no real need to trade with others. There's no real need for blockchain. Um, And so the idea is that within Guild of Guardians, we have something called guild crafting, where you actually have to work with the rest of your guild in order to craft these kind of very rare NFT items in the game. And these aren't items that you can buy. The only way to get them is through guild crafting. So the idea is you work together with your guild, you kind of getting resources. Potentially there's some specialization in terms of who gets what, and then you're kind of crafting these items which then go to for sale, and then when they get sold, the proceeds automatically get distributed to everyone based on their contribution, and then as part of that, the guild leader would get the first cut of that for owning the guild and presumably running a good guild as well. So they're very heavily incentivized to also create a very positive experience for all the players in their guild.
I think that's awesome. It's really, really cool that you kind of like have identified, hey, for the guild owners, like you're not going to be able to like. So it sounds like if you own a guild, it's not going to be something where you can just sit there and create this like quote unquote passive income. You actually have to do work and make sure that the people that you invite. Like, is there something where you have to recruit individuals, or is it something that people can just request to join, you accept it, and let them do their thing?
So yeah, part of this comes to how we predict people will behave, right? So it's someone can certainly buy a guild and own it, not do anything. Um, but there's a question of whether or not people want to play with that person, right? And so I think that that's going to be a possibility where you potentially just own a guild but don't let other members manage it. But there's also going to be potential where you own a guild run it very well, create a very good experience for everyone who joins, and then you kind of get more active and better players in your guild as well. So I think these kind of dynamics will be quite interesting. We've tried to design it in a way where it's overall creates a positive experience for everyone.
And for the gameplay itself, do you think that it's going to require kind of skill, or is it something where similar to something like RuneScape, if you happen to play, where it's kind of like click, and as long as you have relatively good items, you're fine in that sense?
There's going to be a bit of both. So strategy is a big part of the game. So with a lot of these hero collector RPG games, strategy is a big part of it. It's kind of about how you build your team, where you choose to deploy your efforts, like the synergies between different items and heroes and so on. versus the specific kind of dungeon that you're fighting. So there is a lot of strategy elements within it. And at the same time, it is an action RPG, so there also is a skill element. So there's going to be a balance between the two.
Awesome. And then for you, how did you come up with the idea to create this game?
There's definitely a team effort. So I guess a bit about um, my background is that I kind of joined Immutable 1.5 years ago with the goal of looking at whether it made sense to bring in other games to the platform. If we did, then how would we do it? And so we kind of went through a long exercise throughout the bear market where we're looking at other games, potential partners, um, how to bring something one and what would make sense ultimately for the blockchain. We ended up with Guild of Guardians.
Love it. And then for these founder sales that are coming up here, from my understanding, is the game is roughly going to come out in about a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, roughly it'll come out early 2022. We don't have an exact date yet. Hopefully it'll be earlier than a year. But as with these things, you never really know how long it'll take.
For
But we're
sure.
aiming for early 2022.
So then my question is regarding the founder sale, is it something that if people purchase that, then they're going to have to wait for it to really be activated until early 2022, or is there going to be kind of any potential perks or incentives to, hold that all the way up until the release of the game?
So uh, after people buy the NFTs, we're gonna make them tradable in Immutable X, which means that players can start collecting and trading them in a gas-free environment, which we think is a really good fit for gaming NFTs, which typically have kind of lower value assets where gas is would be too expensive to trade. In terms of whether they'll give utility prior to the game, it's possible. Again, we haven't really decided here. We will want to do alpha, some testing of the game, some private testing of the game, but we haven't determined at this point how we will determine who joins that. There's potential there, but we haven't decided really.
Okay, gotcha. And then for just out of curiosity, because I'm assuming you're a gamer, because obviously you're going into this space. So, what kind of games do you think would be a good kind of representation of what Guild of Guardians is going to be like in terms of whether it be the crafting mechanics or the gameplay or the way that the dungeons and bosses work?
Yeah, so the kind of the world of Guild of Guardians is very inspired by D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. So you have these different factions. You can play as typically you just play as humans, but in our game you can play as kind of humans, orcs, elves, these like elemental monsters and so on. So that'll be quite a cool part of it. In terms of how the gameplay works. There's actually a lot of different team-based RPGs. Ones where you have a team of 4 to 5 heroes, which you send into battle. So in terms of how some of the gameplay work, it'll be similar to a lot of those games. And it's in terms of the combat itself, it'll be an action RPG where you control one character at a time, and the other 3 characters on the field are controlled by AI. And so you're able to switch between other characters, similar to I don't know Genshin Impact or something, as you play.
And then I'm just kind of scrolling through the website here, or sorry,
Mm.
the Medium articles, and I'm noticing that you have pets and energy boosters for the founder sale as well as a heroes one. So can you talk just for a minute about what the advantages of picking up a hero or a pet versus a guild are in this instant?
Yeah, they do different things. So ultimately, it's up to how people think it'll affect their gameplay. Obviously, I can't give financial advice as to what's better. Um, but so the heroes are very core to the game. You use them whenever you want to battle in dungeons. Up to a team of 4. Again, as I mentioned before, that certain heroes may have certain kind of specialties, and so often you'll see players wanting to have more than just 4 heroes because they'll need certain heroes in different situations or game modes. Um, so that's kind of a bit about the heroes. In terms of pets, what pets do is they increase your rewards from clearing dungeons effectively. So they might give you higher chance of getting an item. They might give you kind of more materials that go towards crafting, or they might give you other things as well. Um, Guilds obviously let you run and own a guild. So those would be the people who are looking to lead a team, I would say, rather than interested in just joining one. And then what energy boosters do is that the way the game works is that you need energy to go into these dungeons. Um, and in order to incentivize people from have it to have a kind of a wide roster in their team, if you send a hero too many times into dungeons, then they get fatigued. So they kind of it either takes more energy to send them in, or they may lose some stats. And so what the energy booster does is it's a permanent tradable token that removes this fatigue for a number of kind of battles.
And for
So what it lets you do ultimately is kind of
Okay, and then for the dungeons themselves, how long typically get if I want to do like a dungeon run with some friends and we want to take on a boss, how long is that experience going to be? Is it something, as short as 5 minutes? Is it something that's going to be, potentially longer, upwards of an hour, or is that kind of still in the works?
I definitely think it's going to be on the short side. We want to make sure the game is accessible, playable on the go, um, and that if real life things happen, then you're not glued to your mobile screen and you miss your bus stop or something like that. So I don't have an exact time right now. I think this is going to be one of the things where playtesting will help a lot, but it'll be quite short.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Really, really cool. Okay, so sorry, I'm just kind of looking through the Medium article and just want to give a little bit of a tidbit here for the audiences for a second. So, as you guys can see, I'll relink this in the chat if you guys are wanting to take a look at the Guardian sale. And I know there's a whole bunch of people coming from the official account. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. But for the founder sales, they have the Adventurers Guild, where you can have 20 guild members, and the guild leader gets a guaranteed first cut of 1% of any guild crafting sale. There's a Warriors Guild where you have 30 guild members, and guild leaders get a guaranteed first cut of 2.5% of any guild crafting sale. There's a Legends Guild, and that one's up to 40 members, and then 5% of the cut. And then a Mythic one, which is 50 members, and then 10% of any guild crafting sale. And then these are the prices. So for the Adventurers Guild, it's 200, 160 with the early bird discount. So what's for the early bird discount? What is that?
So it's for people who buy early, they get a discount effectively. Um, and the what has so at the beginning there's a 20% discount across everything. And then the more people who buy, the less the discount goes
Ooh.
until no discount anymore.
Okay, so it's
Uh,
not just on like the
it's probably
first day on launch. It's
go ahead, sorry.
no, I'm just wondering, like, so it's not because I heard from someone before that like early bird meant like the first day that it went on sale. So it just depends on how many people buy, not exactly that first day, but you can probably assume that that first day a lot of the early birds are going to get knocked off.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like there's 20% on day one, 15% on day two. It's just how many people have bought. So in general, the earlier you buy, the higher the discount. I think that's the gist of it.
Okay, awesome. So, for the Warriors Guild, it's 4,000 or with 3,200 US dollars with the early bird discount. For the Legends, it's 20,000 or 16,000 with the early bird discount, and then the Mythic, 100,000 or 80,000 with the early bird discount. And then serial numbers here. Serial numbers are not assigned upon purchase; will be randomly assigned upon minting. Earlier buyers will have slightly higher probability of getting a lower serial number. So, for the serial numbers and whatnot, is that something that you think that people are going to really, really value? In a sense.
Well, from what we've seen for most NFT projects, generally the low serial numbers that do people do place value on. Um, Again, I'm not going to say you should value them, but if you look at feel free to look at other projects and see how valuable the serial numbers are. Um, I think it'll probably matter more for things which are very, very high supply. So for Mythic Guilds, there's only 10 serial numbers anyway. But for Legendary Heroes, there's going to be a lot of them, and so the loss will be even more rare relatively.
Awesome, awesome. And then still going just through the pricing real quickly here for the pets and energy boosters. The pets can be equipped into battle to provide unique boosts to your dungeon rewards, such as bonus drops or higher probabilities of good loot. And the pet summons cost $75, and they let you summon one random pet with 4 different rarities possible. And then for the heroes, which we see here, you can buy 3 types of summons in the NFT Founder Sale: Legendary up to $250, Epic up to $55, and Rare up to $12.50. And each summon gets you one random hero of at least the same rarity, with a small chance of getting a higher hero rarity, and the supply of summons will be capped. So for these different heroes and whatnot, or I guess like, guardians, if you will, how many different kind of iterations do you think there is going to be of heroes? Or is it going to be something like, let's just say like Overwatch, how you have, your typical, Reinhardt, you have your Mercy, et cetera, et cetera?
So it's more like Overwatch exactly, where you have heroes kind of do the same thing, and they have a very distinct playstyle and personality. And so we're in the founder sale, there's 35 heroes that can be purchased. And then when the game comes out, there'll be another set of heroes that can't be purchased but can only be earned by playing the game.
Ooh, okay.
Or potentially will be one of the free heroes that we give to people when they first play out, so the game is still free to play.
So speaking of the free to play, I actually totally forgot about the kind of touching on that aspect. How much of this is going to be based off of free to play, from like pay to earn to like pay to play? Like, do you have any part of the game where it's, for lack of a better term, pay to win, where, if you're out of energy, you need to do something? Is it okay, you just have to keep grinding? Or is there going to be opportunities where, you can end up buying like an energy booster?
So you can always buy an energy booster from the marketplace if you want to use it. I think the good thing is that so there's a few things like you can only really one is going to be effective per account. So we've made it so that someone can just buy 100, and then and then all of a sudden, be having a big advantage over everyone else. It's really just one is effective per account. In terms of the accessibility for free to play, so we've tried to make it accessible by making it so there are certain things in the game that aren't on the blockchain, right? So when you start off playing the game, it's just like any other normal RPG. You have heroes that you can play with. You still have equipment, and so really the NFT aspect of it comes from kind of when you get above the lowest tier. Is when you start. So, for example, common heroes aren't tradable, but rare and above is kind of how it works. There are a few ways that people can play for free and end up creating these NFT assets. So, for example, guild crafting is one of them. So you can contribute to your guild and then earn kind of some of the sales. The tokens is another part of it, where we plan to give out tokens to people who play. And so you can earn that by playing. The third one would be there's something in the game called merging, where effectively if you have 5 to 7 heroes, you can merge them to one random hero of a higher tier. So let's say you're playing a game, you're getting these common heroes that you get for free, and then you can merge them into a rare hero, which you can then trade, and then so on. You can merge it up to epic and legendary.
I love that. I love the aspect where, it is looking at something where, the free to play players can genuinely kind of upgrade from that stance. And that's really, really cool. So speaking of like the guilds and the multiplayer aspect and everything, is there a cap? Because in the video, I think there was, I want to say 4 people doing a dungeon run on the trailer. So is that capped at 4? Is it potential to be more? Because for me, I'm like, man, the more the merrier. If we had 20 people running through a dungeon, the guilds working and stuff, that would be really cool. But is that realistic, or is it way better of a flow with lesser people?
Yeah, so in the trailer that showed kind of the core gameplay, which is designed for 4 heroes. Uh, as the name suggests, we're looking into a lot of different guild focused modes, and so we are looking at ones which would have more than 4. I think the question for us is more around like prioritization. We can't build everything we want at once. Like, what are we going to build first when it comes to these different guild modes? So right now we haven't got anything we can announce, but we are thinking about it.
Gotcha. And then for the looting and trading and items in general, one thing that and this might be like a personal thing, but certain games, the lesser the items in terms of quantity of the different variants, I think it's easier to follow. People kind of recognize the names. And then there's, some games out there that have like a vast array of items and, you could spend hours just researching every single item. Do you guys think that you're going to stick with more of kind of like a basic set of, let's just throw out a number of, let's say like 40 items or something? Or do you think it's going to be something where potentially you guys have 100 plus of different styles, rarity, everything else, and it's going to get pretty in depth that way?
That's a good question. I think, I mean, at the beginning, we'll probably start with less and look to introduce more. Uh, as I mentioned before, I think that the kind of what we call like the meta game or the out of combat strategy is a big part of the game. So how you form together heroes, different synergies between your heroes or between your items and item sets and so on. That's people see a lot of value in kind of thinking about the strategies behind that, and that's a fun part of the game. And so we want to make sure we do have enough depth to preserve that.
Awesome. And then, so I'm just checking out the web page here, and then I clicked on summoning, and then it pops up and says you have no unopened packs. So, as someone that comes from the Top Shot side of things, and I'm all about the pack life here, is Guild of Guardians going to be something where for certain items or heroes, or when you buy stuff through this founder sales, you get to open packs and find out that way?
Yeah, pretty much. So when you purchase a hero or a pet, you're purchasing the summon, and then you have to get the summon, similar to opening a pack. And so it'll be one hero per summon, one random hero.
Awesome. Okay. And then also, when you're looking at collection, I'm just showing you guys here on screen, just in case you haven't checked out the website yet. When you bring it down here, you have the Heroes tab, Pets, Other. You have the different rarities of Common, Rare, Epic, Legendary. Faction of Empire, Glad, and Horde. Derek, these factions, good sir. What can you tell us about Empire, Glad, and Horde? Because obviously Horde, the first thing you think of is World of Warcraft. Is it similar to that's the one that's going to be orc related, or how does that break down?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to your traditional fantasy RPG. So kind of empires typically is you have mostly humans in Empire. In Glade you have like elves, but also potentially other kind of mythical creatures associated with kind of the woodlands. And then in Horde you have kind of all your traditionally like like you have what you would see in World of Warcraft like orcs, demons, and then other things as well. But we have a really wide variety of heroes, and so we're excited. Yeah, we're excited to see to kind of show those to people.
And everybody's making fun of me saying Glad. Is it Glade, or how do you pronounce it?
It's Glade.
It's Glade. Okay, sorry. My bad on that one. So for the factions, is there going to be a thing where, like, if your entire, hero pool is all Empire, they're going to get like a bonus, or if let's just say like Empire and Glade are, like friendly or whatever, there's like a perk that way, or are they just kind of to signify different factions?
Yeah, so we were looking into kind of synergies and sets, as I mentioned. And so one idea we have right now is that if you have an entire set of Empire, you get a certain buff. If you have an entire set of Horde, you get another buff, and so on. Um, and the interesting thing we're doing, I don't know if that's actually written anywhere, but the interesting thing we're doing as well is that the plan is that certain heroes from certain factions will have access to certain drop tables, so to speak. And so, depending on what kind of faction you like and what kind of faction you have, then you'll be getting these different crafting materials and contributing those to your guild. So that's where kind of the idea of specialization, which I talked about before, comes into place. We want to create something where people are encouraged to trade with each other and to specialize, or like a real world economy almost.
Awesome. And guys, just in the chat, if you happen to have any questions, feel free to start putting them in there. And Derek, regarding the game that is on Immutable X, and sorry because I'm not super familiar with this, but when the game comes out, are we supposed to then have like MetaMask on our phone to be able to link the NFTs that way? Is there going to be some kind of like cross bridge on some other platform between it, or how does that kind of work once we get to that stage of having a wallet?
So Immutable X uses Ethereum. It just happens to be a solution where you don't have to pay gas on it. And so right now, it would be that you would still need to have a wallet to approve transactions. Um, and that would be what it would be like right now. I think we would look into kind of ultimately our goal is to make this as accessible as possible and reach as many players as possible. And so certainly the idea of obfuscating a lot of that is gonna be something we're looking at.
And then, so we just have a couple of questions in here, and I'll kind of pick and choose some different ones in there. And one of them is, are pets obtainable in game through free to play progression?
Currently, the plan is no.
Nope. Okay, awesome. And then we have another one asking about a global chat system. And I think that's actually really interesting because for me, whenever I'm playing, any game on the PC, I'm like, I love being in voice chat, chatting with everyone. So how does that work in the mobile space?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I think. I mean, we obviously definitely have guild chat. I'm not sure right now whether or not we'll have global chat. I think there's different pros and cons of that.
Okay, for sure. And then another question: outside of energy boosters, is there a way to restore energy, such as top? Or sorry, yeah, we already talked about that. We did answer that question that there would be gems available for like topping up energy boosters. But in terms of energy as a whole, is it just a matter of waiting if you aren't able to get the energy boosters, and it's just kind of a matter of natural time progression that the energy comes back?
Yeah, the plan is it would be natural time progression. We don't, to your question before about pay to win, we don't really want to create a system where you can just infinitely buy more energy, which is why we have the energy booster, right? You can buy it and use it, and if you want, but it's limited. So I think we're probably, we haven't finalized it, but we're likely not going to prioritize having, in-app purchases where you can buy more energy.
Okay, awesome. That's really really cool. Okay. And then for uh just the game as a whole for you, where do you kind of see the roadmap going with this? Do you guys see with the planning and everything that you're like, yeah, I really foresee that early 2022 start? Do you think that there's kind of any kind of big roadblocks you guys are looking at, or everything's pretty much on schedule for then?
Everything's on schedule right now. But that's not to say that this isn't, an extremely difficult project. So, that's why we're trying to work with the best people and companies in the space to make it happen. We have pretty big ambitions. It's not easy at all to pull off, and but we are very committed to seeing it through. Especially since we've got so many supporters now as well who want to see this be successful.
And speaking of supporters, I was reading the article before we started this discussion about Navix joining Guild Guardians from the mainstream game, and they've worked with Square Enix and some other big players in the space. So for you, how did that partnership come about? Was it you reaching out to them reaching to you, and just kind of a little bit of insight on it?
Yeah, so back last year, almost a year ago, when we were looking into the initial designs of the game, we had gone around to different top game and economy designers to get input on the game. I think we had spoken to a few people from Navic who weren't even, I think they might not have even been called Navic at the time. Um, but we knew they were good and that they knew of us. And then kind of more recently, we got back in touch with them just to see if there's ways to work together. And we found there was a pretty good fit. They've got a lot of experience in the space, and I think they'll provide a really good perspective from us because we're kind of living in this blockchain gaming world, and so it's really useful to get as many perspectives as possible about how to build a game that's really really fun and compelling, but also uses the blockchain design really well as well.
And one of the topics with the game that I've noticed is the talk of legendaries, and you're wanting to get like these legendary or mythic items, the guilds, etc., etc. So for that, is there any kind of limitations to what you can and can't get in terms of if I want to get a legendary item, I can only obtain that from fighting a boss, or I can only obtain that from crafting. Is there a way to decipher the two?
You mean how do they get made in terms of the
Well,
items?
I'm just wondering, like, for a legendary item, is it only accessible through crafting, or is it only accessible through boss, or through both?
So the current plan is that it would only be accessible through kind of guild-based activities. So
Okay.
crafting is one way, and then as we add on other guild modes, then there's potential to have kind of item drops in those. Um, Ultimately, the idea is people working together to get these items.
And what made you guys land on the fact of getting people to work together? Because personally, I love that aspect. I think every game where you encompass the multiplayer aspect, the teamwork aspect, I think it really brings kind of like a sense of community. But why did you guys decide to pursue that so heavily? Because just hearing you talk, it's like this is going to be something that's very important of you guys needing to work together, or it's just not going to work.
I mean, we believe games are more fun with friends. And ultimately, you play a game and you stay with the game for a long time if you're playing with, a group of people who you either meet and you get to know who you're already friends with. So we're really keen on that. Believe it adds a lot to the fun element in general. So even without blockchain, it's the game. And then with if you think about what an open economy is, it's groups of people who have a good reason to interact with each other and trade with each other. And so we want to have that as a dynamic of the game within a guild, but also outside of guilds as well, between just other people in the economy. Um, so we believe it's great for the game, but it also has a good fit for the blockchain elements as well.
And with the founder sale coming up, is there any kind of tidbits you can kind of give us of just, hey, be prepared? It's happening, at this time, you need to have this ready or that ready in terms of funds?
Yeah, I think we'll probably post up a guide quite soon to give people a heads up. I would recommend this is more based on just like personal experience, but uh, kind of just buying through the most common channels, PC, MetaMask, or desktop/laptop and MetaMask, um, to prevent any issues. I think it's hard to tell how quickly it'll sell out, but if you want to be sure, then I'll try to see if you can get there as soon as possible or at the beginning, and which is often quite an exciting time as well because you see everyone else in Discord. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong. Um,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think the like at least those early ones, I think those are going to sell out quite quickly. Just from like my community and seeing people come and join from the chat, I think a lot of us are looking at that. And myself, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I go to one of the more expensive ones. Got to kind of figure it out and all that kind of jazz. But Derek, I think we can wrap this up for right now. I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk about this. And if you guys have any big roadmap updates or anything, I would love to come and chat with you again to learn a little bit more about Guild of Guardians.
yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me on. It was a good chat. Good to meet
Yeah, you as well. All right. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
you. Catch you later. See you, everyone.
All right. So that's there. Yo, okay. That was cool. I learned so much. Listen, I'm debate. Okay.